Hi, I'm Paul Bowman, CEO at Wexer, the digital fitness specialist who deliver over 25 million fitness experiences for our partners worldwide. Welcome to the Wexer podcast, where I'll be speaking to industry experts to bring you insights and advice to support your business journeys. And today's episode, backed by popular demand, and when I say popular demand, this is usually our most viewed every year. I'll be chatting to Morten Andersen, Global Head of Content and Accounts here at Wexer. So we're going to do a big deep dive into what 2025 gave us in terms of insights for everyone that's listening, Morten. So, well, firstly, welcome again.
Thank you.
and secondly, let's get into what happened. So it's behind us. You know, what was the most important findings that you saw that came from the content library?
Yeah, firstly, just very jealous of your tan. It's I'm stood here looking out. I'm stood here looking out there on the snow, and I know you're in.
Well, I'm jealous of your hair. Yeah, okay. So, and I've always been for all these years.
No, yeah, I think 2025 was a good year for content on us. Like much stuff happened and so much stuff was consolidated. We always do some predictions. We didn't actually have very bold predictions for 2025 in terms of stats, because we did that for 2024, and we'll probably talk about today how that probably.
Didn't I put a wild one out that like 40% of our librry would be AI?
That sounds like you. We're not quite there yet. No big bold predictions, but I think that shift that we predicted already a little bit sooner, where things would go a lot from the harder strength training bootcamp style classes to a more holistic focus. We've really seen that materialize this year, and we'll talk more about that. But I think that's probably one of the headlines. We've talked about it for a while. The market has definitely been moving towards that direction for a while. This year it happened. We can see it clearly in the usage stats. So I think that's a trend that we're going to see more. But I guess the big one for us over the last couple of years, that's also been very important this year, is just, we're realizing that getting the library right is such a dynamic exercise. Like you have to be constantly over it, and we're constantly rotating titles, launching titles to make sure that we hit that demand just right. So that's a constant focus for us. I think looking at the numbers this year, it looks very harmonic in terms of the demand versus the usage patterns. So we're definitely getting there. Not saying that we got it all right, but yeah, that's a big thing for us. I think also a big market trend now is that virtual or digital is matured in such a way that production is just really effective now, and a lot of producers, trainers, you name it, are just able to do such good production now that cleaning up is also a bit of a headline. So content that's been sitting there, has been doing well for us for a while, is now making way for these newer productions, because to be honest, and this, you talked about AI, it's not even that, it's just equipment, post-production is just really getting good, so that we get access to a lot of quality content. So those were sort of, go ahead.
Oh no, not to kill your going to things, but like I guess we're also seeing that trends are just speeding up, right? Like the adoption of a trend in terms of how quickly it gets adopted, maybe because it gets serviced quicker by partners like us, or just the environment, and then how quickly that also drops off is quite significant. I think, for listeners listening in, I think that's of course, you've got to have to meet the trends and meet the demands where they are, but I think you're going to have that variety, because it's just happening so much faster. I think, me and Morten have been doing this for over 10 years. I would say the cycles were probably 3 years, and it's that's a real. I just chucked that out of nowhere, to be honest. But I think it's pretty close.
I don't think that's. I think that's actually quite accurate. That it would take a little bit while to build. Then you have a slightly slow adoption curve, and then the drop off is also a little bit slower than what we see now. So now we have it's spiking a lot faster. I think from a behavior point of view, we're really getting into that era now where picking up a trend is easy and virtual, because from an operator point of view, there's no real cost. You just need to ask us to turn it on or ask us to go and get it, and we'll try and do that. And most of the time we can be successful. And then you can actually enable your users to have and engage with modalities and types of training that you don't really have live instructors for, at least yet. And that trial and error approach is really, really adopted now. Also from a user point of view, like users are really quick to be very curious and jump on new trends and determine whether they like them, whether they get sticky or not. And also if they don't like it, like they'll go back to, the classics and what they know are using. I also think, Paul, is important to talk about from a Wexer point of view. Like, obviously this is not directly content, but we've done so many user experience developments, I think product developments, making sure that our product is constantly engaging for the end user. I think that's also going to be big for us this year. I think we have a really exciting pipeline of product updates that will benefit the experience of content, because
podcast coming soon with head of product Lorraine.
Exciting one as well. I mean, this seems like there's so many exciting features to be implemented this year, and already just if you look at our virtual players and then the update that's now pending for the new user interface that everyone will see shortly. It's just also from a content point of view, it makes it a lot easier to engage with the content, and it makes it a lot more exciting to look at. So that's also very important for content. Let's face it.
Well said. And so let's dive into popularities of categories, I think, because that tells us the actual story. So what were the categories that everyone was selecting in 2025?
So there's a clear trend here that's building from last year, and probably been building. You said 10 years, so it's probably been building all that time. Strength is the clear leader here. So more than 21% of the total usage when people are selecting a class is coming from strength. So it is well ahead of any other category. It is a big, broad category, to be fair. So that also means that obviously it gets a lot of usage.
Do you think that's also a little bit undercooked? Because you think about how many operators or our partners will actually kind of force stretching down, like use our library as a tool, as a companion after you do a workout in the gym to do your stretching, your recovery. So they're kind of forcing a lot of people to use those type of mentality. So you could actually say that strength would even be higher from an unforced position. Is that fair or no?
Yeah, for sure. No, it is for sure the bread and butter. Yeah, it is. It's what's sought after. I think one of the things that leads it down this path is the fact that a lot of the titles, a lot of the workouts, they have really clear outcomes. You can put a body part into the title. You can have a modality where you focus heavily on a specific thing, and I think that really gives people confidence. They know what they're doing, and secondly as well, it gives you a very good idea of what you're doing. So when you're looking at a virtual or digital trainer that you aren't engaging with on a personal level and you don't know directly, you're not stood in front of them, it's just about confidence as well, right? So I think the strength modality gives that a lot. And so, very, very outcome based still, which is maybe we see the trends, going the other direction towards some of the other stuff.
I was going to say, I know we'll cover what's it like in 2024, but can we? Is it up or down? Strength.
It's up. Yeah, it's up. It's up.
Okay.
It's up. Closing in on 5%. So it's still And so I guess putting a workout in front of people where there's a clear outcome, where it's body weight based, or at least it can be done with equipment. In this case, as we're looking at the mobile stats, it can be done anytime, anywhere. It just makes such a massive difference for people to be able to get a proper workout in that has a clear outcome, and then you can leave that workout with a sense of fulfillment, because you've done something that leads you towards your goal. So that is still extremely important. But at the same time, we also saw that spike in recovery and I'd say longevity that we talked about. So we've been talking about this for the last couple of years. And we saw a massive uptake this year. We saw a huge interest. We saw more classes started. We saw better engagement rates, stuff like that. So I think, it could point to two things. One, obviously, being the interest is very real, and that adoption curve that we talk about is often a little bit delayed on digital. So why that is, that's interesting. I don't necessarily have the answer for that, but it definitely looks like that is the case. So you and I actually predicted that last year was going to be really big for this. We started to see sort of that those categories making waves, but this year we really see it come into sort of full fruition. So that's something that's really interesting. And stretch and recover, Pilates, yoga, wellness, together they make up a large share of that usage that has more like a little bit more of a holistic and recovery longevity vibe to it than the pure strength and the boot camps and the stuff that used to be really popular.
Yep. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Carry on. What other insights?
So I'm guessing if we look like the overall picture for our library and our categories in there, is that it's more balanced. The mix across the categories is more balanced this year than I think it's ever been. So the curve is a lot flatter, meaning that the fewer extreme highs and lows compared to last year. So we get a fairly even distribution across the modalities, which obviously makes us very happy, because we've always said that part of a successful digital workout library is making sure that you can cover everything, and we truly believe that we can do that. And the stats actually showed this year as well.
Well, so, variety is king, right? Like it's I think there's a few people saying content is not king anymore, it's workouts. I actually just think it's variety. It's meeting where people need to be met, and it's nearly impossible to do it all. So hence why you need, it's like you take your traditional media platforms, who's winning media, it's YouTube, just because there's so many people with different things doing different things constantly. So
agreed. Agreed. And it's the same if you look at other streaming services. I know you can't probably make a direct comparison, but like if you went on Netflix and they only presented you with movies, like probably that wouldn't be that interesting. You're also looking for series. You're also looking for various different types of movie documentaries.
So we can have a yarn about them.
Exactly, stuff like that. So and then probably the last trend when it comes to these categories that's worth mentioning is that cycling, bootcamp, and cardio, they took a little bit of a hit this year, so they're no longer as dominant. So basically, some of the ground that's been gained by the wellness, recovery, longevity sort of type modalities, that's been stealing away from these more high intensity modalities. So that's also an interesting.
How much is that for the operators listening in, because they've actually changed the cycle studios completely? Some of them don't have cycle studios anymore. Like that's got to be the impact there, right?
Yeah, but remember these are mobile stats. So what we're talking about now. So that's actually at home users and Interestingly, last year we saw a huge uptake in cycling, meaning that obviously a lot of people would either bring their device into the gym facility and use it on a bike, or actually have access to a stationary bike at home. Whereas that's taken a little bit of a step back this year and made way for those softer formats.
Does it hurt you personally as a very, very keen cyclist?
I'm all about running now, remember.
Sorry. Yes.
But I think, and we'll talk more about this a little bit later as well. I think the probably one of the clearest trends here is that it seems like people, and you and I are both on wearable technology and like to track stuff. I think a lot of people are jumping on their bandwagon now, and it's all about matching your efforts with your recovery abilities and having a more holistic focus. I think that's what we're seeing here as well, to be honest.
Are you trying to not product place or work?
I started to show it, but I thought let's get a sponsorship in place first.
We need a sponsor. Okay. And then I guess what's the trends telling you about the bigger picture?
So I mean, if we look at how the numbers compare, the as we mentioned, the biggest gainers are strength. So functional strength, muscle building, stuff like that, still very much the king. And then stretch and recovery is also up a lot with the wellness category. So I guess, we're just looking at that broader definition of fitness right now. That's really starting to not creep into the market because it's been there, but it's really on our platform and in our numbers anyway. It's just really evident. If we look at stuff that could be defined as holistic health, it's up more than 6% compared to last year. So that's good for us to see. Yeah, we already talked about the ones that took a little bit of a hit. So I think, again, talking about that bigger picture that we're seeing, I think probably 2024 leaned into cardio intensity a lot, whereas 2025 more favors strength, control strength, control effort, and then more so recovery and that holistic approach, which is in line with our predictions, just a little bit delayed. So
as always.
So I think the main headline here is like 2025. That's definitely a desire for sustainable fitness versus the risk of burnout, and I think also that's very much in line with market trends on the not just in the fitness industry, but the health space overall.
Well, you just think about, got a lot to do with a rugby team, and they're just talking about the amount of data that, the data that they used to get is pretty much the same as where we used to have about 5 years ago. So it's just like, we're pretty much, people that are keen on analyzing the stats, seeing their stats, understanding how rest, recovery supports your training efforts. It's close to a professional, sports team in terms of what they're doing. And some of them are actually using the current technologies that we're wearing to be able to support that strength and conditioning. So it makes sense. The consumers are getting smarter.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, good. Okay, and then so in terms of trends for the bigger picture though.
Yeah, I mean that is the sort of maybe the redefinition of strength. It's just not the classic strength anymore, because we're also seeing uptakes in Pilates and that stretch and recovery modality. So this points to holistic strength becoming part of the mindset with more fitness enthusiasts. So it's all about now. It's not all about muscle and high intensity. It's all about joints, mobility, posture, mental health. Like that's all part of the plan now, and that's I think that's why we have sleep as well. Yeah, I think that's why we have that more widespread pattern now than we've ever seen before. Yeah,
and then talk to me about like actual stream times across the categories.
Yeah, so because obviously what we've talked about now is what people are selecting when they're selecting a workout. And the interesting thing for us then is always to see how that matches up with actual stream time. So how much time is actually spent on each category. And from the key takeaways is that strength is almost identical in stream time as it is to the amount of selected classes. So it sits close to that 21%. So that's just a confirmation, that it's doing really well. And the top 5 categories that we have, which are strength, cycling, yoga, stretch, recovery, and Pilates, from a purely numbers point of view, they collectively represent more than 68%. So that's where we have the most engagement for sure. So you could say one thing is that strength is the pure leader, but if we then dig into each category, sort of the mindful and the recovery categories, they're definitely over indexing when it comes to engagement. So the category that overperforms the best, when you look at how many classes were selected versus how much of the actual total stream time is spent there, is yoga. It's the biggest winner in terms of engagement at all. So there's almost 4% more usage stream time being had within the yoga category when you compare it to how many classes I actually picked across the categories. That's So
why? Because the yoga individuals know what they're picking, they know what they're about to do, so therefore they want to see it out.
That's a good question. It's definitely a very sticky category where people they when they commit,
they're passionate. When you're a yogi, you're a yogi.
Yeah, I think we've always said and we've always seen that yoga is a very good virtual modality because
True.
they're not taking anything away from, because nothing beats a very good live instructor. We all know that, but the difference between a yoga class done virtually and with a live instructor there might be a smaller drop off than a high intensity class where maybe sometimes you thrive off that energy that can come from a trainer directly, stuff like that. So yeah. And then I also think that yoga just sits really, really nicely in between the harder modalities and the pure wellness modalities in terms of your meditations, your coaching, your breathing, stuff like that, stretching. It just sits somewhere nice in the middle where you still have very dynamic movement. Some of our yoga classes that are really popular, the sort of more flow type classes, they're actually quite hard. Like it's not just so you get, probably with yoga you get the best of both worlds, and I think that a lot of people are realizing that. And also when they browse our library for yoga class, they will see that sort of a lot of the harder yoga sessions will give you that feeling of getting a decent workout, because you do a lot of strength-based movement, but you also very much tap into the holistic side of it in terms of deep stretching, focus on breathing, stuff like that. And interesting when we talk about yoga, because yoga is an old modality. It's always been there for us. It's always been something that's been picked up really well by our clients. We also see that Pilates is now making waves again. So Pilates has probably been hidden away a little bit for a couple of years, and now actually they are up by 2% compared to last year, and still rising a lot. So I think we'll see 2026 also having a heavy focus on Pilates. And obviously some of that is being driven by the reformer trend. So reformer is obviously very popular. We already have some stuff on the platform, obviously looking to expand that library. So we make sure we have a well-rounded offering in that area as well. But definitely just the hype around reformer and the fact that it is Pilates, although quite different from your traditional Pilates, is definitely driving interest. It's definitely driving sort of people towards that category again, which we're clearly seeing. So I think, and I think as well, say again.
Do you think it's here to stay, reformer Pilates?
I think, I think so. I think that's going to be one of the we talk about it. It's definitely, And I think as well, on our platform, what we're seeing is similar to what I said with yoga. I think Pilates just sits in a really nice spot. It's all about control. A Pilates workout can be bloody hard, like really, if you like, but it's a lot about it represents a lot of the stuff that the users are after now, like strength, but you want it controlled. You don't want an all-out effort. You want it to be very controlled. You want it to be very outcome based, and it also has that sort of other whatever vibe about it, where you also you have to focus on your breathing, all that sort of stuff. So I think it just sits really nicely,
calming the nervous system, which I hear a lot these days.
So I think it sits quite well with where sort of the market is trending towards right now. So we're definitely seeing that. And
then the opposite side of the index, what's dropped?
Strength is actually under indexing a little bit on stream time, but just by 1%. That is to be expected because it's the biggest category, and I think it's where people also bring the most experience. So they are very fast to look at a class and determine whether that is something they want to do or not, or whether that would actually make them hit their targets. And then, so we see a little bit of browsing going on, where you look at, you identify a class, but if you don't really like it, you're not afraid to then jump onto the next one. And then we also see, interestingly as well, we see dance under indexing heavily this year. That's the largest.
People like me push it and then just bail out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's definitely a category that lean toward like shorter sessions with higher churn or novelty usage. For sure.
Okay, makes sense. And then, and in terms of, any insights in terms of behavior?
So the main user trend that we should take away from this, I think the main headline is that time is spent where stress is lower, basically. So, yoga, Pilates, and stretch and recover, like that helps users stay longer on the workout and spend more time. So, there's a focus on being restorative and that stuff. And also, as we talked about, that probably very rhythmic way of training where, it's very controlled. It just has a certain flow to it. Like that's definitely the classes that are up there at the minute. Yeah. And then I also and this might.
Do you think because they move slower, like traditionally yoga, Pilates, stretch, recovery, it's slow, so therefore it's better when it comes to a digital fitness to be able to follow?
I think that's definitely a big part of it. Like the less. I think the lower impact side of the library is easier to do virtually because you're not quote unquote jumping around. That makes it easier. I also think that what comes into play here is
as well.
Say again?
Less fatigue as well. Like I think about my own virtual experience, which is a lot. I think I'll be a super user.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Like, if you're throwing yourself into a workout and then you're listening and you miss a cue. Where it's pretty hard to miss a cue with yoga, Pilates, even with me, how bad I'm stretching.
Agreed, and the truth as well is that consuming virtual fitness is also at least from our mobile product, is often done at home, and you might not have a dedicated workout space. So your living room or your spare room or whatever might be better suited for a little bit less impact than and then you go and do your high intensity stuff in the gym. It looks like that for sure.
Yeah. Okay. And in regards to durations.
Yeah, so again, we can look at this two ways. So one is when people are selecting a workout, that's always interesting. Like what durations are they going for? Because you could probably, in most cases, relate that to the amount of time they want to allocate for their training. So, the most popular brackets are the 10 to 20 minutes, and then the 20 to 30 minutes. So that seems to be the sweet spot here for the right balance. So it's long enough to feel like an effective workout, but it's also short enough to fit into to schedules that are getting increasingly busy, as we all know. So and the clear outcome here, when obviously those are two brackets that we split it into 10-minute brackets, so we can sort of follow the trends a lot easier, right? And the 10 to 20-minute bracket is 33.5%, whereas the 20 to 30-minute bracket is almost 29%. So those two make up a large chunk of the workout selected, meaning that when people select a workout, they prefer it to be within that time frame. So not shorter than 10 minutes, but also not longer than 30 minutes. And that 30-minute mark really seems to be the max now for mobile workouts, because 77.7% of all workouts selected are less than 30 minutes. So almost 8 out of 10 workouts are less than 30 minutes. So it is also points to that being the sweet spot, and sort of underlining that it's all about efficiency and
do you think, like, I think about the early days of virtual, and we used to have a big bugbear with this in terms of people introing for like 4 minutes before they even work out, and then the outros were quite long. Like, if I look at every bit of content now, people are working out pretty much within 30 seconds. It's pretty even if not quicker. So there's a lot of time saved in that regard as well, eh?
There is, for sure, and the way of production has definitely changed. You're not spending 5 minutes doing an intro and making a little bit of a joke and stuff like that. It has to be to the point. And I think you talked about YouTube before, and we are also used to engaging with social media type content, and we get bored and we get impatient so quickly that it has to be to the point. So quite often, you jump straight into a warm up. And as the warm-up is going, you're getting that a little bit more information about.
We're dealing with attention spans of 8 seconds now, in terms of society. So it's it's actually quite impressive that they're doing something 30 minutes, if I'm honest.
Yeah, and We also see the very short option, the 0 to 10 minute bracket is at 15%. So it still plays an important role. And the trend when we look at how this stuff is being used is definitely, as you talked about, the impatience of everything, that you need something that's short and sweet, and then you can stack your own workouts. So, a lot of users will use a short workout as a warm-up, as a finisher, or even a recovery session after a hard workout. So those 10-minute workouts, they definitely still have a lot of appeal for sure.
Nice. Okay. Yeah. And then, or anything else you want to say on that?
No, I'd just say, like, it's interestingly, like, we've just seen the numbers, the duration numbers and duration brackets just trending down year on year. Seems like it's stalling a little bit now, because the 30 to 40 minute bracket is actually up by 4%, which it's stealing away from the 20 to 30 minute bracket. So you have obviously 4% of usage is not a ton, but there is a sign there that some users are sort of looking at a longer duration. And I think also it has to do with the adoption curve of virtual, and some of our users now that's been with the product for a long while, so they have the consistency of using virtual and being used to work out at home or wherever, and that means that now they're ready to commit to longer workouts. So let's see if it's be interesting to see if that continues next year.
And I know I keep asking this, but how does that compare to 24?
Yeah, so 2024 was dominated heavily by the 20 to 30 minute bracket. So you had more sort of exploratory use, more mid-length experimentation, whereas now it's a little bit more like we have a little bit more of a Goldilocks zone with the 10 to 20 minutes and the 30 to 40 minutes growing. So, either people are choosing quick sort of repeatable session, or they are actually committing to a little bit longer workouts. So that's going to be the interesting trend line to follow for us this year, to see where people are going. Are they committing to more than 30 minutes, or are they more likely to commit down towards the 10, 15 minute workouts? So that will be very interesting.
And then again, how long are users typically spending on a workout?
So when we look at then, because what we talked about now is the duration brackets when people are selecting a workout, whereas the stream time will tell us a little bit more how it reflect on how the categories are used. Not necessarily how they're designed with what we're seeing still is that we still have a favoring towards those selective modular consumption types over full session completion. So we actually see for most workouts or most activities that we actually have some drop off, but that is definitely to be expected. And again, back to us talking about regular streaming services. If you're watching a Netflix show and it has 8 episodes, you're not watching the intro every single time. You just skip past that, and you're also not, and you just want to. So that's definitely to be expected, and that is completely in line with what we expected. But like, if we look at the hardcore stats here, like under 30 minutes is critical. 96.2% of the total stream time, or every stream time is lower than 30 minutes. So anyone hardly
note to self for all of our content partners: don't really create anything over 40 minutes.
Which is fortunately the trend that's also happening from the production side. And again, the short workout time is very dominant. So we see that workout stacking, where people are, rather than selecting a 30-minute workout, they would rather do 10 10-minute sessions. Because it gives them like ultimate flexibility to put together their own session exactly how they want it. So that's probably the biggest user behaviors that we're seeing.
And then in terms of what categories are getting the most streamed time?
So yoga and cycling lead on stream time, on actual stream time. I think with cycling, the backstory is that it has longer classes in general. It's often sort of an endurance format, so it has a little bit longer classes, which also lead to more dedicated users. But yoga has the largest completion rate. So as we talked about, that really indicates a focused and intentional sort of participation. So that's very critical right now. And then Pilates is probably the most balanced category when we look at the demand versus how much people are actually using, or how much time they're spending. So it's a category right now for us that really is effective when converting workout intent into actual engagement. So it's a really sticky category, really dedicated user base, and it often happens when something is trending. People tend to really dive into it and force themselves to do that exploration and stay on and really get familiar with that to make up their mind whether that's something that's gonna be part of their habits. And then I also just wanted to touch on the wellness stuff, because on the wellness stuff we see that there's a lot of engagement that is very short, which is also in line with a lot of the actual duration. So a lot of our wellness pieces, your breath work, a sleep meditation, a regular meditation, a stress meditation, stuff like that, is often something that is very bite-sized. So you can squeeze it into like a work day, or you can squeeze it in before bed, or however you want to do it. So I've sort of put an equal sign between wellness and quick wins, just because it seems like a lot of people are using that wellness for getting like a quick session in and setting up the rest of your day, or relieving a little bit of stress, which I think falls very much in line with what we talked about earlier about recovery being just as important as effort.
Like my next, and I think know where I go with the next one, because I think I talked about it for the 6 months when we did the podcast about in terms of when people do more at the start of the week. Is it still the case in 2025?
And it is definitely the case. And it's funny, this year for the first time we have like a perfect declining pattern. So we have 18.5% of 18.5% of all usage coming on a Monday. Then it's down to 17.7 on a Tuesday, 16% on a Wednesday, and then it just continues until about 10% on a Sunday. So
I find that so interesting. Like I would say I get more. I guess I sit more as a weekend warrior, maybe, like catch up on workouts and get more done on the weekends, which I know most of my friend group would be the same.
It's almost identical to last year. So I think we can, and the year before as well. So I think we can say that this is how our users are behaving anyway.
Time of the day, has that changed?
Time of the day, mornings are still king. So the highest activity occurs between 8 a.m. and 11 a.m. That sits close to 28% of the total usage. So there is a strong morning preference here on our system, which is interesting because when you compare that to the day of the most popular days, like being Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays, you would expect most people to be at work around those hours, wouldn't you? So that's interesting. But again, for me, it's just a clear indication. For me, it's just a clear, and a lot of those views are coming from me, by the way, but don't tell anyone.
Of course. I was going to say something cheeky, but I thought it'd be not. What it shows me though is that flexibility, that maybe people are able to squeeze something in just before work, because we offer so many different durations and so many different ways of tapping into a workout or a recovery session. It just goes to show that it can be done at any time. And then the second most favorite time slot is between 5 p.m. and 8 p.m. So I guess that's what you can call prime time, right? If you are in a club, that's prime time. So that sits at around 20%. That 9:15 class now, I think, like I get to travel the world, look at many, many different clubs. I always feel that 9 o'clock class, I know that used to be the mums after drop off. I really don't think it is anymore. I think it's I think sometimes that's outperforming the 5, 6, 7s in the live world, right? So kind of makes sense.
Yeah, definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense. And and interestingly as well, we see like almost no engagement after 11 at night, which also makes sense. But if my mind serves me right, I think over the past couple of years, we actually had a couple of years where we had decent numbers around that time, like people doing
I remember hearing
late
that.
workouts. So but everyone's talking about sleep now, right? Everyone, is talking about how sleep is so important, which obviously it is. We can definitely see people not wanting to work out late anymore. They'll be in bed looking to get their rest. So I guess that's good.
Get that sleep score higher. And then so they're moving to in club virtual. In terms of like categories massively changed compared to mobile or not?
Interestingly here is that for us, cycling is still the biggest category. But remember, when we go into virtual facilities, with the Wexer player, you can set it up as a group exercise player, you can set it up as a cycling player, or a combined player. They can do anything. So we have a lot of dedicated cycling studios, and obviously those are going to drive a lot of usage because virtual cycling is just so popular in club. Like again, back to talk about yoga and the experience of a virtual class, and then you can deliver a really, really good cycling class from a virtual point of view. You can have so much engagement on screen. You can be riding mountains. You can have all the data you want, your performance data. So cycling is still very much popular.
And let's be honest, so many people have actually cut live cycling for virtual. Yes.
Exactly.
That's been a big trend for us. Okay.
So from a category point of view, like that is the biggest standalone category. But just to put it out there, that might be some of the explanation. I think the biggest one again this year was that our body mind category, as we called it on virtual, that's increased more than 50% compared to last year.
So which is what we predicted. Just to chuck that out there.
Exactly. So that's really emphasizing that market shift towards wellness, mindfulness, holistic fitness. It's really bumped up this year. So on the other hand, that's caused a minor drop in cardio, which is also what we saw on the mobile side of things. So it definitely, I think we can safely conclude here that at least in our world, the high intensity is dropping off a little bit to make way for those holistic practices.
And then duration.
And interestingly as well here, like if we duration is definitely it's definitely moving as well on virtual. So in club durations used to be classic 45 to 60 minutes when you and I started in this world. Then they came down, and people realized, or fitness directors and stuff realized that rather than having these hour-long classes, the engagement actually goes up if you take the duration down, because it gives people a lot more flexibility. So we definitely see those shorter format classes. They are making their way from Wexer Mobile into the clubs as well, because there's 0 to 15 minute as we the 0 to 15 minute bracket is up more than 10% compared to last year.
How much is that our education though? Because there's not probably a group exercise director or fitness director that hasn't spoken probably to you or one of the, or Garen that have been here for many years, and know that they should be doing a 30-minute class, and then they can do on-demand time between the next classes. And because I feel like that's kind of culturally built within how we do a lot of our scheduling now. Is that a factor, or am I reading into that too much?
No, I think that is definitely a factor, for sure. I mean, but I do think that whether it's influenced by us or not, because we've been preaching this for many years, take the durations down a little bit, give more options, because people aren't afraid to stack workouts. So if you schedule 2 30-minute workouts and you leave 5 minutes in between for a little bit of change, that will actually give you a lot better engagement than a 60-minute workout. So I think, but I just definitely think, Paul, that we are getting so used to shorter formats, and you talked about attention span. I think looking at a 60-minute block and committing to that for a lot of people is just, you can do it if it's a live class and there's a community around it, and you're working out with people that you work out with week on week, and you have a relationship there. If it's a virtual program, I think committing to 60 minutes is something that we rarely see people do, other than in the cycling studios.
Okay. Now I want to go to my favorite question, and actually the last question: predictions for 2026. We should actually have like a scorecard every time in terms of what we predicted and what we did.
We should hold ourselves a little bit accountable here. I think the big one for us, when we talk about in-club, especially, is those new markets that are emerging. Like, we have two massive trends staring at us. One is being aqua content. So there's a big appetite around the world to include aqua workouts from a virtual point of view. So poolside installs is going to be something that I think that will happen a lot this year. I think a lot of the pool activity will be driven by virtual, we're looking to obviously become very strong in that area. I think the second one we've already talked about as well is reformer. Like, it's just booming. It's just there's so much appetite there.
It's going to become, a cycling studio, right? Like, it would just be, you would have your group exercise studio, you have a reformer studio, you have a cycling studio. Yeah.
And it's just, isn't it? It's just a very classic journey, isn't it? From boutique, now making its way into mainstream, becoming just a stable.
I think what we're seeing as well, like, is that I think where people are finding instructors. I was actually talking to a few people that are on the side of training instructors, and it's just becoming less and less. The world of not being able to find, the world that we used to live in, where there's just so many instructors that would just do it for the love and the passion. That I don't think that's as strong as maybe many would like to believe. So I think where virtual comes in to support that is to those markets. I think aqua, is just poolside aerobics. That's one of the hardest things. I remember when I was operating clubs, that's one of the hardest things to do, because no one wants to teach that class if someone was to cancel. And to be honest, I always used to say that those are probably some of the most vocal members too, because they've been members for 20 years. So I think that's a big trend. I think a lot of our trends, I think from a Wexer point of view, can be shaped by where labour shortages. So I think when there's labour shortage, I think that's where virtual will come in and play a big part, don't you think, in these new markets?
I think you're completely right. Yeah, I think that recruitment is a big thing. Also, cost of recruitment, cost of live is just exploding. So and I also think for these particular modalities as well, that we could see some of the things come a little bit full circle, because back in the day when we got started with virtual and we didn't have a mobile product, we only had Wexer Virtual for in-club usage. Like, one of the USPs that we had was obviously eliminating downtime, because a lot of studios would sit empty. Whereas I think if you have a poolside and you have the ability to allow people to go and use that space, also if you have a reformer studio that could end up sitting empty a lot of the time whilst you recruit your instructors, while you get that instructor base in place, and actually you also recruit enough members for it to be profitable to run those live classes. Virtual can play such a massive role here, just helping to build momentum a lot faster, but also I also think it's going to play a big role here in terms of being a stepping stone and teaching users. So you can actually, as a reformer instructor, that can be very heavy on technique and just very important to move correctly and get stuff right. You can chug on a virtual workout, and as an instructor, you can then dedicate your entire focus to actually engaging with members and actually helping them. So I think it has. I think these two categories have a lot of potential for us.
Can I chuck out a buzzword prediction? Because I actually want to use variety as king now. Because I think think about our research in terms of confident users. Going from, as they move through confidence, they become more going from needing support to then moving to being inspired. I think now variety is just everything. Like, if I'm a gym owner, I'm looking at it going, I've got Horoxes, I've got CrossFitters, I've got runners, I've got yogis, I've got so many different things. I can't meet them all. And I think the job of a group exercise director right now is to try and increase the variety, to be able to service those needs, base that, understand what's actually getting used in those, or communicate that, understand what's getting used in those clubs, and then just reiterating that.
Yeah, I think you're perfectly right, because our stats from last year completely prove that, right? I mean, even though that we determined that strength is still the most used, so it's most sought after. Like the curve is quite flat. It's not, it's not like strength is taking away all the usage. Like the curve is quite flat across all the categories, and also all the subcategories. So yeah, for sure. It's all about variety. I agree, and we've always said that, and our stats just show that year on year. And and we also get that feedback quite quickly, don't we? Like if we don't follow market trends, or we don't constantly publish new content within all our categories, we'll get that backlash quickly. So yeah, for sure, that is. And
how do you? I know this is a prediction, but I just want a conversation. Like, how do you see? There's so many local influencers that I speak to on a regular basis. They're actually trying to engage with AI to be able to take their workouts, cut them up, give more of a thing. Most of them are saying it's not there yet, but it's getting closer. Like, we know that local stars always play a big part in usage. We've gone through categories and specifically talk about personas, but I think that does become a thing this year in terms of, but local star AI content. So they know it's Morten, they trust Morten, they know they can do authentic Morten content, but then there's some AI content to be able to supplement the library. Fair?
I think fair, yeah. I think we're still to see it really materialize, like in a meaningful way, but it's definitely knocking on the door, and someone will get this right. I think you are right in saying that it's probably going to be in some sort of combination with a well-known instructor or someone that has already built some trust. I agree with you. I think maybe some of the first steps towards this we'll see is that AI will be playing a huge factor in post-production. So you can record stuff a lot smarter. You can do your recordings in bits. You can record different segments, meaning that if you book a production day with a studio, you can get a lot done in one day if you're not doing 30-minute workouts, but you're doing it in pieces. And then if you have an AI tool to then cut that up and turn that into very different workouts and different ways of doing things, I think that's going to be really powerful.
Yeah.
But I think I'm having, and I must say as well, I'm having a lot of these conversations with, and we constantly do with people that want to get into virtual, and trainers that are successful in their own boutique, or doing something very locally, that are looking into trying to expand this and maybe even create a brand and stuff like that, and having aspirations. And the one thing that I always tell them is that you can't neglect production value, like production quality. Like it's such a fierce marketplace with this right now. So you have to get that right. Like you can do a lot with an iPhone, but it also has its limitations, right? So I think if you are that local starter that are looking to jump on a platform like us, like it is money well spent to look up someone in your area. They can do proper production, and this can actually be done now at a cost that isn't overwhelming. I think that's probably very important.
Any more predictions from you? I'm just going to leave it with the year of local star influencing.
Yeah, I think I have one prediction. I think I have one prediction that's probably a little bit boring, but it's off the back of your talk about variety. I think I'm definitely picking up production and the desire to have workouts that are adjusted to all abilities. So that leans into demographics. So there's a lot of talk about active aging right now. So taking content and make it really specific to people, users that are in their 60s. Maybe you make a little bit lower impact. Maybe you have a different focus on different stuff. Women's health specific stuff is also something that's here in the background constantly. So I think we're going to see, we already have that, but I think, the virtual adoption curve now is going out of just like embracing mainstream and embracing for everyone, and then going down all these lanes of being tailored to specific audiences. And I think that will happen a lot more this year. I think there's a lot of business to be found there, and serving people right, which is something that everyone wants, right?
You heard it here first. Well, no, actually, you heard it here on the 9th of February, 2026. Yeah, let's see if it comes to fruition.
Exactly. Big bold predictions.
Yeah. Okay. Well, look, Morten, thank you very much for this. Appreciate all the insights. And you will be
and I think as well,
FIBO.
Next trade show FIBO. Yeah. April, Cologne will be there. Happy to see everyone. Also, Paul, just to make sure that everyone knows that what we've talked about today and some of these stats, and maybe not so much predictions, but more the stats for usage stats that we demonstrated last year will also be put into a bit of a presentation or a blog post, and will be available soon as well. So if you want to dive deeper into the numbers, that will be out there shortly as well, and should be an interesting read as well.
No, so I thought you were going to start saying like and subscribe and stuff as well. Well, I can say it to you, and then so hopefully people do like and subscribe. Look, thank you all for listening in, and thank you, Morten, for your time and breaking up the numbers like you do. Appreciate you. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Thank you. Later. Bye-bye.